Let's join the hands of patients and family members caring for their loved ones. Together with patient organizations, health professionals, educators, we can make a difference in their lives and for society.
They are the little-known diseases, some with names that are often, at best, tongue twisters, at worst, unpronounceable by the general public. But they affect the lives of millions of Americans every day, and sometimes they get short shrift from the medical community. The 4th annual Rare Disease Week on Capitol Hill, February 23rd to 27th, seeks to continue changing that perspective, saving lives, and creating real change in the medical research community. Our guest is Senior Director of Patient Value at Medidata Solutions Worldwide, has spoken before Congress, members of Congress, and the FDA for years, and has a 27-year-old son with one of these rare ailments. Let's welcome Steve Smith to MidPoint. Steve, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ed.
Steve,
nice to be here.
Pleasure. What kind of diseases are we talking about here when we talk about these really rare ones?
Well, these are diseases which affect fewer than 200,000 people each, and some of those diseases affect 10, 20, 30, 40 people. And there are 7,000 such diseases classified in the United States. So if you add all those people up, it's actually affecting 30 million Americans. So although each disease is rare, there is a lot of commonality in the hurdles that we face.
Is it just fair to say that a lot of these diseases don't get the attention they deserve or sometimes get overlooked simply because there is, in comparison, so few people that suffer from these diseases?
Yes, that's the essence of it. It takes a lot of money to develop a drug and a lot of time, and that puts the investors and the pharmaceutical companies at risk if they try that. So they'd rather go for drugs that are going to bring a return on their investment.
How much of a roadblock then are you getting, and do people get here from the drug companies? Because let's be very honest here, we've talked about it on this show many times, that one way or another, it's still all about the profit down the road.
Well, I think that one of the things we've learned is it isn't the drug companies per se that are causing the block. It's processes we have that all stakeholders have a part in fixing. And so we've seen a lot of the solutions which have actually come together, the evidence of that we can get better by the different stakeholders coming together and collaborating. That includes the pharmaceutical companies that I've seen collaborate a great deal. Now, having said that, companies do need to bring a return on investment to their investors. That's the profit motive. But as a parent of a child with a rare disease, I want some company to please make a profit off of my child's drug so that we can have a drug, because that's how business works in the country. And until we get people saying, I will invest in that, we're not going to have medicine. There will be a lot of unmet medical need. So rather than our fighting against one stakeholder or another, say the FDA or battling the companies, what we've learned to do in the last 15 years is collaborate.
I have about 90 seconds left, and I want to make sure that I get this in. The 21st Century Cures Act. Tell us about it, the importance of it, and where you stand today on getting this pushed through.
This would be wonderful if we push it through. It's historic because both parties have gotten involved in pulling together all the stakeholders for 7 months and listening. We have a lot of line items on draft legislation now that will be debated for a while. One of the most important, just illustrate the point, is the Open Act. The Open Act would help us develop hundreds, we think, of new treatments for rare diseases in just a few years. Previously, that's taken decades. So we have 7,000 rare diseases. We have fewer than 500 treatments. We need changes like the Open Act. Open Act would incent pharmaceutical companies with 6 months exclusivity extension on their patents. So they have a big incentive to take their big drug they already have on the market and do additional, sometimes risky clinical trials to get a treatment for a little drug. So this is money from the private sector. They pay. It's not asking the government for money. There is a model for that called Best Pharmaceuticals for Children Act, which works. So we're looking for these kinds of incentives that will get these drugs pulled off the shelf and repurposed for rare diseases.
Do you sense that you have the government and you have the push behind you to get this through?
Yes, the voice of the patient really is there now. When the Energy and Commerce Committee ran the 21st Century Cures listening phase for 7 months, patient advocates were at the table in the House of Representatives chambers testifying alongside the FDA, the NIH, the pharma companies, and everybody else. They're considered central to drug development now. They bring the data, they bring the knowledge of the disease, they collaborate with the pharma and the FDA, and we're developing solutions together. 15 years ago, when I first began talking to the FDA and members of Congress, that was not the case. We had to explain who are rare disease patients, why are you here,
And
now
now
they're inviting us to the table.
And now we have it here, the 21st Century Cures Act. Stephen, great luck with this, good success. We'll touch base again and we'll cover it up soon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, and MidPoint continues.